Welcome to another edition of the Official Jets Podcast, powered by Amazon Web Services. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen here in the BetMGM studio. We'll be joined by Bart Scott later in the episode for Arvik's Tornox, Swiss Army Knife, Player of the Game segment as the Jets prepare to face the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And before we talk anything Jets-Chiefs with Bart Scott, it's week 8 of the season, which is crazy to begin with.
This season has flown by. It seemed like yesterday that we were here inside the BetMGM studio for the first time doing a training camp live show, and now we're 8 weeks into the NFL season, which is just amazing. It really is. But, for the Jets right now, you saw some positive steps the previous Sunday against the Buffalo Bills, but that challenge is a tall task going to Kansas City anytime, much less now. This is the defending Super Bowl champions, and you're just a team just looking for its first win.
And any team, too. I mean, anytime, any team going to Kansas City, I believe they allow fans also in Kansas City. I could be wrong on that, but I'm almost positive they do. So there's going to be some form of crowd element there also.
Yeah. You get somewhat of a break that there's not 70,000 people in Arrowhead, but this team, you can make the argument that they have the most valuable player in the National Football League leading that offense, and Patrick Mahomes, and he's got so many weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense is playing well as well. So, listen, any team going into Kansas City, it is a tough challenge, and the Jets are going to be up against it. Let's see if they can find a way to get to the fourth quarter and just give yourself a chance.
The Jets did that very well against the Buffalo Bills this past Sunday, held the Bills out of the end zone multiple times, including times where you thought, oh, maybe the Bills are finally going to get one, like when Josh Allen hits Tyler Kroft down the left sideline. They're in the red zone. The Jets held back-to-back possessions, gave the offense a chance. But one player on defense that I think we should highlight, because I think he's played well, maybe a little under the radar over the first 7 games, is Quinnen Williams. I mean, he has 3 sacks so far on the season, and right now I would say that he's definitely shown progress from that year 1 to year 2 jump that you'd like to see from all rookies.
Well, first off, he's got to clean up the flags. We know that, and he'd probably be the first one to tell you that. But from an interior position, he's been very solid against the run. And you mentioned the sack totals. This is a guy who continues to press the pocket up the middle, and quarterbacks don't like that. And we often forget that Quinnen Williams is just in his 2nd season here. So let's say he gets another sack. Maybe he gets Mahomes down this weekend, and you're hoping that happens if you're a Jets fan. But if you're getting an interior rusher who has 8 sacks, who's very good against the run, who's often drawing double teams, that's what you were looking for when you drafted Quinnen Williams the previous April. So I think arrows are pointed up with this guy. I like his motor. He's got unique athletic ability. We always talk about how low to the ground he is built, and he's explosive off the ball.
And I would say he's got a really quick first step also, that you've seen him burst through the line a couple times. He had 2 sacks against the Niners in week 2. He had 1 yesterday against the Bills. And I think that Quinnen Williams is a player, you mentioned the sack total, if he were to get 8 sacks, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Just to put things into perspective.
It's possible. Let's just say that right now. He's got 3 sacks through 7 games. That is quite possible that he can end up the year finishing with that kind of sack total.
Right. So with that in mind, if he were to finish with 8 sacks is what Jordan Jenkins led the Jets with last season. So to get that kind of production from up the middle is very impressive. And there's another very impressive defensive tackle the Jets will see this weekend, Chris Jones, who has 4.5 sacks, which is crazy to think from an interior position. But
he's a great player.
Quinnen Williams, 1.5 sacks back through 7 games, not too shabby.
No, Jones is a great player. So the Jets' offensive line is going to have to take care of him. I don't know how many times you can go single against him. You're going to have to double him a lot. But what Williams is going to be able to do, it's going to take the pressure off the outside guys, because if you have somebody you have to account for in the middle, then those guys on the outside, they just got to win their one-on-one matchups. And the other guy who's been pretty good, I think, for the Jets. And another name under the radar is John Franklin Myers. He came up with the fumble recovery when Terrell Basham got the corner on, I believe, right tackle Darrell Williams of the Buffalo Bills, and he knocked the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. And Franklin Myers was right there. He comes up with the fumble recovery. But those are two guys who I think have been bringing it on the interior. The question for the Jets over the years has always been, who's the guy threatening you on the outside? So it's good to see Bash get in the backfield, and he's made some plays the last couple weeks now.
Terrell Basham, 2 sacks in as many weeks. He had one against the Bills, forced fumble. He had one against the Dolphins, his first of the 2020 season. And when you look at this Jets roster, we talked about guys throughout the season like Joe Flacco and Frank Gore, who are obviously in the latter halves or third, or they're close to the end of their careers, right, respectively. So you would assume. I'm not going to put that out there. I realize, as I said,
well, Gore's the kind of guy you wouldn't be surprised if he was playing 50.
Right. But with knowing those two guys are old for NFL years, right, we've talked about them a lot, but the Jets have a lot of young players throughout the roster that I think have been at least somewhat productive for the team when their numbers called. I mean, the first guy that comes to mind when I said that is like Jeff Smith in week 4 comes off of IR. He immediately has a good game. And then against the Bills, Denzel Mims comes off of IR Saturday, and he has 40 yards in the first half. Granted, you'd like to see more from Denzel Mims in the second half and the offense as a total. I mean, totaling 4 yards in the second half. You got to be better than that. But I think that you liked what you saw out of Mims, at least in his first NFL action.
Can I go back to the defensive side of the ball real quick? I got to give props to Bryce Huff, undrafted free agent out of Memphis, who had his first career sack against the Miami Dolphins. And then Sunday, the Bills were running Isaiah McKenzie across the line of scrimmage, and the aforementioned Tyler Kroft was coming over to block Huff, and Huff read that out, snuffed it from the get, and got him down, McKenzie down in the backfield. That was a veteran-type play. So he's a guy who we have to continue to watch because sack against Miami, a big play in the defense, in the offensive backfield. So what is his next steps? But on the offensive side of the ball,
I just want to say one thing about Huff is you would assume he'd get more playing time, right, with Kyle Phillips now out for the season with the ankle injury. And that's another young player that was an undrafted free agent in 2019. He led the team in tackles for loss, and then he started 2020 pretty well, and then he gets hurt, and then
tough break, yeah.
And then Bryce Huff, to your point, you would assume he might be in the mix to receive more snaps.
And another guy, I think we're going to talk about this on practice today this week, is that Jabari Zaninga, another member of that 2020 draft class. So Steve McClendon in Tampa now, Quinnen Williams, we're seeing him develop in front of our eyes. He always had the natural raw athletic ability. I think that he was slowed by injury last year, but Quinnen is a guy who's flashing. John Franklin Myers is a guy you picked up off of waivers from the Rams. He's showing his talent. Bryce Huff starting to come on. And then Jabari Zaninga is a guy the Jets really liked. They drafted in the 4th round out of Florida, an explosive player who is not an edge, but he's a defensive lineman, so how is he going to work into the rotation as well?
And then the other defensive player to think about is the other Bryce, is Bryce Hall, because he's in that designated to practice window now off of the non-football injury list. And if let's say he's on the same Bless Austin path, which is you get activated after week 10, maybe you get your feet wet depending on the situation and the numbers at corner. I think that's another guy that when the Jets drafted Bryce Hall, a lot of fans and a lot of pundits were thinking, well, that could be a guy down the road because he dealt with that pretty brutal ankle leg injury at Virginia. But this was a guy that led the nation in pass defenses the year before he got hurt.
He can find a football, and the Jets knew it was going to be a slow process with him when they drafted him. But like you said, hopefully he can get on the field here quickly, because I'm sure if he can get up to speed on the practice field. And I wonder if he has a similar path to Denzel Mims, meaning scout team first, then get some team reps, and let's see what you have. But his ball skills, he is a natural in terms of finding the football. And you mentioned what a productive season he had at Virginia, his last healthy year in college. So he is a guy who you'd like to see out there on the field in the back half of the season. But sorry to get us off track.
That's okay.
Denzel Mims.
When it rains, it pours. It's like a snowball that turns into the avalanche.
How about Mims? He saw a lot of Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White is a top 5 corner in the league, maybe top 3 corner in the NFL. He had those 4 receptions, a couple crossing routes. I really thought one of his most impressive plays was taking care of Tre'Davious White in the end zone on LaMichael Perine's first touchdown in the National Football League. Everybody talks about Mims being explosive, in and out of his routes, big guy, good catch radius. So he performed well in game 1.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me was what Mims said after the game. I interviewed him after the game from MetLife Stadium as I was up in my suite, and he was outside waiting to go home. But Denzel Mims said, I know I can do a lot more and I can do a lot better in the future. So I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, my blocking, first off. He said that blocking gets him going, like mentally and involved in the game. And I know that all NFL fans want to see the 4.38 guy just like catch and run and just take 170 yards and show off the burners. But Denzel Mims takes pride in his blocking, and I think that the LaMichael Perine touchdown is a great example of that. And I think that speaks to who Denzel Mims is as a guy. I think he's a little tougher than maybe you would think because receivers kind of get that diva label, maybe unjustly.
Well, yeah, you go back to Baylor. You know this. You did a lot of work on the previous draft years that they used to talk about the way he approached practice every day, and he loves being part of the run game. So, But Anthony Beck said it after your interview, by the way, on Jets Overtime.
Boy, I didn't hear it.
He
so
said,
new to me.
hey, listen, that's great that the receiver wants to be a blocker, but we need him catching touchdown passes and catching passes down the field.
And Denzel Mims, to be fair, at college was the only NCAA receiver with at least 8 touchdown catches in at least 3 seasons and 3 consecutive seasons.
In 3 consecutive seasons. So, yeah, he got it done inside the red zone. And he was asked to run a lot of vertical routes at Baylor. But the Jets said early on he picked up the route tree, and he can do a lot of different things. So he's a guy who you would anticipate is going to continue to get better. And you love who he's being coached up by. Not only Sean Jefferson, but you got Hines Ward in there as well.
Of course, and Hines Ward was very much known for his blocking, so I'm sure he'll pick up a thing or two learning from him. In terms of the rest of the receiving core, we mentioned Jeff Smith. I mean, you got to hope that Brashad Perriman is healthy because we'll see what the deal is with Jamison Crowder, but you're hoping for this upcoming week and the rest of the season, your receiving core is Perriman, Mims, and Crowder. And yesterday, the Jets had 2 out of the 3. Braxton Berrios was starting in place of Crowder.
How about the 3rd and 20,
where
Sam Darnold threw one of his most impressive passes of his 3-year career, gets Berrios in a crazy window for 22 yards. And that was a great example what Sam can do from the pocket, because I know a lot of times we talk about his improvisation skills and what he can do when a play breaks down, but here he is on the money in a tough situation, 3rd and 20, and he finds Berrios. But you're right, Greens. You're talking about the Jets, and Adam Gase referred to them as 3 dudes. The 3 dudes. The 3 dudes have yet to play together.
Yeah.
And we're at the NFL midway point. So Jamison Crowder not in the lineup when Denzel Mims back, and then Brashad Perriman, he took that big pop at the sideline. I think that was Jordan Poyer, right?
It was either Poyer or Hyde.
Yeah.
I think it was Micah Hyde.
It was Hyde. Okay, so I don't remember who the safety was. It was one of those bang plays where, damn, he really took a shot on the sideline. So concussion protocol, so we'll have to hope for the best with him. Again, we talked about the speed at the receiver position, but work in progress because Mims gets out there for the first time. Now Perryman's dealing with an injury. And every time Crowder's been on the field, he's been productive. Berrios has done some nice things in filling in for him. But the Jets, I thought, offensively, great plan early, and they moved the football. They were in good rhythm. And what I liked is the offensive line was blowing the Bills defenders off the ball early.
Yeah, I think the Jets, it's really a tale of two halves for the Jets offense.
Yeah.
I mean, 186 of the team's total yards came in the first half. And you saw the offense start to put things together, and you hope that the offense can take whatever happened in that first half and they can apply it to 4 quarters worth of football throughout the course of the season. And on a positive note, LaMichael Perine's stats aren't eye-popping,
No.
but he did get his first career touchdown.
Yeah, and we talked about the run, and it's like a stretch, and he showed his explosion there because I don't know if a lot of the guys would have been able to get to the edge, and the Jets have talked about him being a home run hitter. No, that was not a long gain per se, but he got to the corner where nobody could get to him. No Bills defender could get to him, so he showed his speed there, and he did have a 20-yard run in the first half, blocked up well, and he hit it, and that's the explosion he can bring to the table, or that's this big play ability, because I know we're always thinking in terms of, hey, chunk plays come in the passing game. Well, you can get chunk plays in the run game as well.
And LaMichael Perine, I think, did a really nice job of getting skinny and extending the ball over the pylon. From my vantage point, I was about the 30 or 40-yard line, and the Jets were going to the opposite direction, like to my left. Yep. And you almost like, is he going to get it? Like, I don't know. And then it almost looked like he ran out of bounds. And then he did a very nice job of jumping and extending.
He certainly did. And that was like a veteran move right there, getting it over the pylon and getting it into the end zone. And the Jets had a 10-0 lead. And this was the first time in a long time since week 4 against the Broncos where the green and white gave themselves a chance to win in the fourth quarter. And it's small steps right now. And I know fans are unhappy, and everybody inside the building is unhappy with the Jets' record. There's no doubt about that. But you do have to take things in, play by play, watch them back, correct the mistakes. And the Jets gave themselves a chance to win. It'd be really something if they gave themselves a chance to win against the Chiefs, because they just faced a Buffalo team that was scuffling the last couple weeks. And I still think they're feeling their own way. Right. Defensively, you saw the Bills take that game over in the second half with a lot of their pressure packages. And I thought Sam Darnold was right. They made adjustments. Now, what are we going to do as far as making adjustments as well to counter those adjustments? So I like defensively that third down were great again. The Bills were 3 of 11. That comes on the heels of a game against the Miami Dolphins when Miami was just 1 of 9. So you're getting off the field on third down. 0 of 5 in the red zone. I guess the other point of that is the Bills controlled the ball throughout that game after the first quarter.
Yeah, it was very odd because the Bills, all their 18 points came off field goals, but they also didn't punt. So it's the epitome of bend but don't break.
If you give up 18, you're going to have a chance to win every week in the
yes.
NFL. That's right. But you're going to Kansas City and shoot. Most teams, if you're playing Kansas City, you probably got to score in the high 20s at a at the ultimate minimum, right? You saw the Bills Monday Night Football where they said, we're going to play small ball, we're going to keep everything in front of us, and they just gashed them on the ground.
The Chiefs,
pick your poison against Kansas City.
It is. It's almost like when you talked to Coach Gase on the Adam Gase Show about DeAndre Hopkins, you're like, you almost know that he's going to get his, but how much can you contain him? It's like the same thing for the offense, though, of the Chiefs, right? It's like, they're going to do something somehow, but how do you want to defend? Do you want it to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or do you want it to be Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and all those guys?
I think you got to take the ball out of his hands. Mm-hmm. I know the Bills got crushed for it because they got ripped apart on the ground, but they did have a chance to win in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
If Tyreek Hill is going over your head, that scoreboard's going to be lighting up like the 4th of July.
Yeah,
they have a great pass catching tight end too, and Kelce and Hardman. tremendous speed, and it's just and Andy Reid's play calling is tremendous.
Yes. And speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, let's check in with Bart Scott for our Victorinox Swiss Army Knife Player of the Game segment. Bart, the Jets face the Chiefs in Kansas City. I'm sure you could go in a number of different directions, but who is your player or what is your matchup to watch Sunday?
I mean, for me, it's always Mekhi Becton because he's such a dominant player. He's the most dominant player, I believe, on the Jets. Him matching up against maybe Frank Clark or whoever they decide to go over there is going to be a show, because now I think that they can believe that and confirm what they always believe, that this guy was one of the best and have the potential to be a Hall of Fame player, and they're going to put the pressure on him. He can take the pressure, and he's only getting better. I love the TE that they had with the receiver and him pulling around and watching everybody that was on the train tracks make a business decision. And you got to lean to him, not only in the run game but also in the passing game, giving everybody else help, because you're starting to get a lot of interior pressure. So you can turn the protection, which makes it hard to blitz in the middle, but it leaves Becton on an island. I think he's ready to have Becton Island, put him up there with some of the other greats out there. I say that seriously, to put him up there with some of the other greats that were able to have islands. And we know who I'm talking about is Darrelle Revis.
Hey, I got Revis Island here. I got Madbacker Island over here, and good minds think alike. I can't believe you're aligned with me today. I'm taking Mekhi Becton versus Frank Clark. Frank Clark can get after the quarterback. He's got 3 sacks so far this year. And I think for the Jets to stay in this ball game, Bart, they got to possess the ball. Let's see if they can get that run game going. I thought the game plan was very good early against the Buffalo Bills. Frank Gore got on track, and so did LaMichael Perine. And the big ticket, as he is called, Mekhi Becton, getting out to the second level. I want to see that. I don't want to see Tyrann Mathieu coming up with interceptions and being such a menace for Jets quarterbacks. I want to see him maybe matched up with Mekhi Becton a time or two.
But you can do that. All you have to do is force him to step up and step and crack replace. Because if you take his guy and block a big, because we have the big receivers in Mims and you have the big receiver in Perine, let's see if he's going to be available. But if he comes down and he hits a defensive end or he hits a linebacker, then that forces the edge supporter to come up and have to, the force defender to come up and have to set the edge. And, we'll see if he can set the edge against Becton. And if he decides, the thing about Becton being so big, if you decide to cut him, he can just fall on top of you, which is a reverse pancake. And if not, you stay on the train tracks, he can hurt your feelings because you think, Derrick Henry has a stiff arm. He has a 6-inch punch, rivaled by Bruce Lee.
You guys are talking about Mekhi Becton. I feel like I have to mention Patrick Mahomes here. And this Jets defense going to be facing Patrick Mahomes, but it's not just Patrick Mahomes. It's Tyreek Hill, it's Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield. So for me, it's how is this Jets defense?
Did you purposely leave one out?
Well,
he hasn't been there a while. I feel like he needs a couple games to get acclimated to the offense. He only had 30-some yards in his debut, but I understand the point. But here's my thing, Bart. If you're the Jets defense, if you're Greg Williams, it's almost like a pick your poison type of matchup for this defense. So if I were to hand you the keys to the playbook, Bart, how do you defend this Chiefs offense and in particular Patrick Mahomes?
You have to understand, one, you have to keep Mahomes within the pocket. He actually is more accurate outside the pocket than he is in the pocket. And what you want to make sure that you do is you make sure that you double everybody. You keep 2 high safeties. And you say if you're going to beat us, it's going to be because you run for 300 yards. And you hope that those running backs, get tired and pull a hamstring for all the yards you're giving up, opposed to letting Mahomes kill you with one play strikes. You make, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, make sure that he holds on to the ball. You make sure when you get there angry, and you make sure that you send him a message. But, it's like dying a slow death opposed to dying a fast one. And you hope that during that process, somebody jumps off sides. Somebody has a holding call. You force them to have to block you, and then hopefully they get behind the sticks, and then that's when you can get punts. And we've seen the strategy of what teams are trying to do. We've seen the Chargers and what they was able to do and accomplish with Herbert getting his first start. Make sure they just attack him with 4 people, because if you blitz him, he's going to make you pay for the blitz because you're going to have one-on-one with so many guys that can run fast. And the natural instinct for the corners is going to be able to play off and give a cushion. Well, Mahomes has learned how to give you death by 1,000 paper cuts because he'll throw that 10-yard, 15-yard comeback until you dare to come up there. Then that's when he's going to try and go over your head. You got to stay disciplined and stick with the game plan, no matter if he has success or not.
I think you're exactly right. You got to make the Chiefs kick field goals if possible. The Jets have been better defensively on third down the last couple of weeks. The Dolphins 1-9, the Bills 3 of 11, and last week they were great in the red zone. Buffalo 0 of 5. Kansas City is a completely different animal. Bart, just wanted to ask you real quickly on the other side of the ball. We both put Mekhi Becton under the spotlight, but what do the Jets do against the pressure that teams are going to continue to throw against them, like the Bills did in the second half, where they got their safeties involved, the defensive backs blitzing, and the Jets weren't able to get anything going offensively?
You know that Tyrann Mathieu is going to be coming off the edge, and they've been giving up, defensive backs coming off the edge. They've been, really, being able to have success with that. So, like I said, the hardest thing to do is to do turn protection, where you put you put the running back on the same side as Becton, and he's there to get all the leakage, but you're expecting it not to be a lot of leakage because Becton's that way. And you slide and you turn the protection. When you turn the protection, instead of people facing forward, they face slightly this way. So if somebody's coming, they can just ear hole them and knock them off their face. And if they got to squeeze through a hole, if everybody's turned like a fence this way, and you stack it up, and it's the hardest defense to get through. Usually to beat turn protection, you have to try and loop all the way around to the opposite side in between Becton, because it's going to become a natural hole. But that's a hole almost like punt. It's almost like punt protection, where you see the personal protector off to a side and everybody else slides, and him and Becton will be on the backside. That way it allows you to be able to see everything coming, and nothing can get through the middle. It has to come from the outside. They have to find the short side. The short side is going to be Mekhi Becton's side, and you hope that he can hold up better than trying to ask those individuals in the middle, center, guard, and guard to hold up.
All right, that was another edition of the Official Jets podcast presented by AWS. And that was another segment of the Victorinox Swiss Army Knife Player of the Game segment, Jets Chiefs Week 8 in Kansas City. We'll see you next week on the Official Jets podcast powered by AWS.